Mark, thanks for coming all the way from Hawaii.
It was a long swim.
To come hang out and have a conversation with me. So,
My honor, Drasko. Thank you.
let's just start straight from the beginning. Tell us where you were born, kind of grew up.
I was born in Massachusetts, but I was made in Hawaii. Mom and Dad were both from the East Coast, Massachusetts. My father was with the Army Air Force during World War II, and that morphed into his career with the Federal Aviation Agency. So he was sort of assigned the Hawaiian Islands, and he opened up and built airports and air traffic control towers there. My two older sisters were both born and raised there. Then Mom and Dad went back east, so the aunts and uncles could look after me while I was born. And a couple months old, we were back in Honolulu. Excuse me.
Nice.
Yeah, so luckiest guy in the world. I got to grow up in Hawaii.
Yeah, and that was from a move that brought you down there, and that's where you grew up the rest of the time.
Very much so, yeah. All the aunts and uncles were still back east in Beantown, Massachusetts, and they'd come out and visit, and occasionally we'd head back east for a summer vacation. But basically grew up in New Valley, a brand new little suburb called New Valley, NIU, and that was very close to Makapu and Sandy Beach, where I sort of cut my teeth body surfing. And Dad was a member of the Elks Club on the edge of Waikiki. Their old newsletter, I can still see it now, it was a silhouette of Diamond Head, and it said, "Where the slopes of Diamond Head meet the sands of Waikiki." And they had a beautiful pool there. I kind of learned how to swim. Also in suburbia, there are quite a few pools. Our yard didn't have one, but I sure knew every neighbor that did. And so we'd be playing in pools a lot. And I think one of my first lifeguard memories is of a very cool dude. His name escapes me now, but he was the lifeguard at the Elks Club pool. And he was bronzed, and he was fit, and he had a pair of Ray-Bans on. And every now and then he'd go out surfing, either to Old Man's or Tongs out there. And, you know, I was under 10 years old going, that looks pretty cool for whatever reason, you know. That might be my first lifeguard memory.
Nice. Well, you took the next question right out of my head, but 10 years old, is that when did someone teach you how to swim, or what was your first relationship with water or with the ocean? That kind of stuff?
The ocean, it would have been my mom taking me and my sisters to Kahala Beach, a fringing reef offshore, so it was very calm, white sand beach there, 15 minutes from our house. And that was most likely the first intro to the ocean. And then I said, like I said, a lot of pool time, just playing. I was never a competitive swimmer, not until college. And then surfing the ocean. From the pool, it went to the ocean right in front of the Elks Club, playing on styrofoam boards that we'd pick up at the drugstore. And I must have gone through about a dozen of those things, because we'd put them on the pool, run across the pool deck, and try to go to the other side. And that I didn't break my neck or crack my skull open like an egg still surprises me. But if you didn't land it just right, you'd snap the board right in half. And but I kind of learned how to surf on a styrofoam board, and that morphed into foam and fiberglass boards. And that was sort of late 60s, I guess, early 70s. And that was the transition era when they were stripping down longboards and making weird, wacky, smaller, shorter boards. Mm-hmm. And my first surfboard was a tanker board that my dad bought on a layaway plan at Sears. They sold them along with Ted Williams Sporting Goods. They had surfboards at Sears Honolulu. And he bought it for my sister so she could be cool, and I don't know if she ever rode it once, but I would wrestle with it every now and then.
Yeah. When was the first time then, from learning, showing up to the ocean, pool, all that stuff, surfing, that you first touched the subject of body surfing? Was that always alongside, or when was the first time that kind of happened?
I think the first time that happened, there's a neat little beach on the way out to Sandy Beach that we used to call the Cove, and there's a famous scene that was filmed there back in the 50s, the movie From Here to Eternity. Deborah Kerr and I forget the actors now. They're making out on the beach. Anyway, my sisters and their girlfriends used to go down there and play, and a lot of times they couldn't go to the beach unless they dragged their little brother along. And my older sister Libby had a classmate girlfriend, Penny Toothman, and Penny kind of body surfed, and she was really kind of cute, I guess. And so she kind of showed me how to push off the bottom and ride waves in, and I got to play with Penny in the shore break. So that was maybe the intro to body surfing, very informally.
So it's a love story.
Yeah, it could be. It could be. Yeah, well,
Some could interpret.
love of the ocean. That is certainly still going strong.
Okay.
And then there's a surf spot called China Walls, Portlock, between Sandy Beach and New Valley. And there's a place called The Finger. And before all these $1 million mansions were built along the cliff, Hawaii was still kind of growing then. But we'd go body surf The Finger. That was the summer right about 7th grade. And there was this family that rode pipo boards, cut up plywood belly boards, and they just used to rip and go so fast. But I always sort of remember getting my first good rides out there, and that sensation of being so close to the water surface, yet going so fast. I always said it felt like a fire hose was hitting me in the chest, and it was just so strong, the feeling, and how cool this was, that was kind of the beginning of body surfing for me. And that moved on to board surfing. My spot in front of New Valley was called Picos, and could run across Kalanianiole Highway back in the day, and empty lot, and be in the water 5 minutes from the house. Once again, transition era surfboards, no leashes. You wiped out, you were swimming after your board, or body surfing after my board. And so as a gangly, uncoordinated teenager, I think I was swimming and body surfing after my board more than I was maybe standing on it. Older guy in the neighborhood, Herbie Knudsen, he'd surf out there quite a bit. And Herbie was a lifeguard before his career morphed into the fire department. But Herbie saw me swimming and body surfing. He got me my first pair of duck feet and said, "Hey, why don't you come to Sandy Beach with me?" And it seemed like body surfing was a better fit for a gangly, uncoordinated adolescent teenager, as opposed to standing up on a surfboard and swimming after it. And so I still love to board surf. I'm not very good at it. I call it my stand-up comic routine. And then there's body surfing. And then we'd have contests. There used to be a nice little circuit of contests at Sandy Beach, Makapu, Point Panic, and out at the North Shore at Pipeline. And body surfing's been very good to me.
Yeah. And you mentioned a couple lifeguards, one at the pool,
right? And
then this gentleman.
Oh, Herbie Knudsen, who's a lifeguard, right?
Did they push you, or was any of that an influence as far as like when did lifeguarding first appear into your mind as an option besides just going to the beach and body surfing?
Well, as a teenager going to Sandy Beach, back in the day, you'd hitchhike kind of freely and safely. Simpler, safer times, perhaps. Sure. And the lifeguards would pick me up coming and going to work, or whoever I'd get a ride with. But I'd leave my stuff under the lifeguard tower. And I say stuff because I don't know that we had backpacks and water bottles back then. I think maybe just a towel. Did we have sunscreen? No.
Towel and fins, maybe?
Maybe, yeah. And a T-shirt. I remember at the Elks Club, Mom trying to put zinc oxide on my nose, and me rubbing it off with a towel as soon as I could because it wasn't cool. But I also remember peeling bloody noses from being in the sun and the surf all summer long. Getting back to Sandy Beach, so yeah, you'd see the lifeguards in action, and once again, fit and strong and stoked and helping people and having a good time in the ocean and getting paid for going to the beach. And I said, well, looks like they've got a pretty good gig here.
Was there a standout event or rescue that you saw before you were a lifeguard that influenced anything, or was it just general?
It was just general.
Yeah.
They'd make quite a few rescues at Sandy Beach, and but it was just I guess, sort of the vigilance that sort of caught my eye, where most people are at the beach working on their tan, checking the surf, relaxing, falling asleep, taking a nap. And these guys were paying attention to everything that was going on, not just on the beach, not just on the surf, but sort of the spidey senses with what's happening in the parking lot too. And they're just very, very aware of what was happening on their beach, and that appealed to me.
Cool.
Yeah.
So then let's go into your first, when you decided, hey, okay, I'm going to go do a tryout. What was the beginning of your lifeguard career?
The beginning of my lifeguarding career was, I was a freshman at UC Santa Barbara, University of California surfing branch. I was playing water polo there, and if you're going to be on the fall team, NC2A team, you had to play for the summer team, so that meant a summer job. This was the summer of 1975, so I most likely took that American Red Cross Basic Life Saving First Aid course for half a credit during the school year, so I was ready for the summer. Did the tryouts at Ventura for a state guard, I guess, and I like this story. So my nickname then was Pineapple because I was from Hawaii, and the California water was just incredibly cold and freezing to me. So I asked our trainer, for the water polo team, hey, I've got this tryout. I think we did the tryouts in February around Ventura Pier, and I'm just going, yikes. And what do you think of anything we can do? We came up with this concoction of Vaseline and Bengay. Nice little concoction in a wax paper cup, stirred it all up, slathered myself with it head to toe, and I might have put it on too soon because I was starting to burn up an awful lot before the swim. Meanwhile, you could barely see the end of the pier. Everyone's shivering and shaking and in their sweats and really not wanting to do this swim. And there's Pineapple kind of like sweating and his Speedos there. God, what's this guy on? I was in really good shape from playing water
Sounds
polo.
like a state lifeguard tryout.
And and people came in just shaking and drinking. Coffee wasn't that popular there. I remember guys drinking hot Tang. Do you remember Tang?
Yeah, like the powdered.
The powdered orange juice. Anyway, did real well there, but I didn't have a car, and the nearest jobs were either going to be down in Ventura or up at El Cap. I ended up working for Santa Barbara City that summer, the lowest paid guards on the coast at the time. Maybe they still are, I hope not. So I rode my bike from Isla Vista, the UCSB student community, to and from, work every day. There were morning workouts either at the pool or the gym, and then afternoon evening water polo practice. So I was in the best shape of my life that summer of 1975. And the most interesting thing, or the funniest thing about that summer was earlier that year, the movie Jaws had come out.
Oh.
Yeah. Nobody went swimming that summer. I mean, nobody went near the water. The old timers were just going, you can't believe this. And we'd have these phone boxes behind the tower, a little metal box with a landline phone on it that would go to the dispatch by the harbor. And it'd be foggy, it'd be gray, there'd not be a soul on the beach, and the phone would ring, and some wise guy would be playing the Jaws theme on the phone. Dun 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 dun. It was pretty funny. But that's my first summer of lifeguarding for the city of Santa Barbara. Yeah.
And then did you do it through your time at the college there?
I had a very, very brief college career. I was only there for like a year and a half. Played water polo for 2 seasons, and was home on a Christmas vacation. My father was suffering from cancer, and he passed away. And I was a little homesick, was not doing well scholastically, and I was in the best shape of my life. And there was the North Shore on the other side of the island. And I said, I think I'm going to spend a little time in Hawaii.
Sure.
So I kicked around
Yeah.
community colleges, and then I think the very next summer, summer '76, I did the tryouts for City and County of Honolulu, and did very well, and started a part-time career with the city.
And was it weird? How did they take you in culturally, let's say? Because obviously coming from the mainland to Hawaii, but you were already
Right.
living there.
Right.
Was there some kind of stigma to you trying out? What did you remember about the tryout? Because there's like a general.
That's a real good question.
Right.
I guess we did the tryouts at Ala Moana Beach Park. Wow, that's crazy. I'm sure I did very, very well in them because, once again, I was 20 years old and in the best shape of my life. And I had just a tiny little reputation because I had won a handful of body surfing contests while still in high school there. So my little bit of a reputation might have preceded me
Okay.
into the guard department there. Back in the day, City and County of Honolulu, a lot of beautiful Hawaiian men working, old timers, and a lot of the lifeguarding in Hawaii, sort of an offshoot or an offspring of the Beach Boys at Waikiki, who ran concession stands in front of the hotels, gave surfing, canoeing lessons, and of course did first aid, life saving, and what have you there. So there's a bit of a happy-go-lucky beach boy having a good time stereotype that the city and county lifeguards sort of had a reputation with, or baggage with, perhaps, as we tried to morph into more professional first responders. But my first summer of guarding, I was still living at home in New Valley, and I was the hotshot body surfing champion, so I thought, I'll end up at Makapu or Sandy. They made the rookie drive completely out to the other end of the island, the west side, and pay some dues out there, and that was really good for me. There was this thing called the gas crisis, the oil embargo, and gasoline was hard to come by. And in Hawaii, anyway, you could only buy gas for your gas-guzzling cars back then in the mid-'70s. Depending on the last number of your license plate. If it was an even number, you could only buy gas on an even day. If it was an odd number, you could only buy gas on an odd day. But anyway, I remember I inherited Dad's '61 Chevy Impala, and driving that out to the west side, and ran out of gas a couple of times going to and from. But spent the night with a good friend, Clinton Blears. His brother Jimmy Blears was a longtime North Shore Lifeguard. He was a former world surfing champion also. And slept on a couple of boats at Ehukai Bay, so I wouldn't have to do the commute back and forth. Mm-hmm. And by the end of the summer, I think I was picking up part-time days at Sandy Beach and Makapu. And then I'm pretty sure it was that winter where a girlfriend and I moved out to the North Shore, where I sort of started about a 20-year run out at the North Shore.
And tell me how that works coming in as a rookie. Obviously, there's more than what most people think of Hawaiian lifeguarding. I feel like for the layman, it's North Shore, it's gnarly all the time, it's the craziest thing, it's Hawaii. But how is that being a rookie and then getting put onto the far side of the island? Or for those people, because you're still covering the entire place, right? If you're out at Waikiki or somewhere else. So talk to me about that side of it. As the lifeguards, if the people that are in those other spots, but you have this, let's call it an aura around a Hawaiian lifeguard being, at that, to the untrained eye, North Shore, always gnarly. How does that affect the rest of the operation there?
Well, it's real funny. When I first started, I was, like I said, part-time, close to home, Makapu and Sandy a little bit before I shipped out to the North Shore Ehukai Beach Park, where the bulk of my career was. My first partner, a fellow just a little bit older than me, buddy Sean Ross, he was partners with Butch Van Artsdalen, sort of out of San Diego, one of the first Mr. Pipelines out. I guess he was the first Mr. Pipeline.
And he was a lifeguard as well, correct?
He was a lifeguard as well, yeah. He was a colleague of Eddie Aikau's out there. He and Eddie were best buddies. And sadly, Butch was sort of drinking himself to death. And but I remember going out, in high school, went out to the North Shore a handful of times, and Butch was in the tower and got along great. And but his partner at that time, Sean, was going, I need backup. I need a strong partner. And Sean sort of, recognized me as someone who could maybe handle the conditions out there back then. And granted, the North Shore wasn't nearly as crowded and congested as it is nowadays when you go out there.
Mm-hmm.
But so I kind of fit in fairly nicely out there. It was a good, easy fit.
Talk to me, you just alluded to, and one of the questions I was having in my mind, I mean, you started there in the 70s, but
Right.
the North Shore started to change, but like any beach, any place, right, with the advertisement, tourism, social media, increased visitation.
Everything's changing. Everything's increasing.
Talk to me the changes that you saw there, but from the lifeguard's perspective, and what changed and things that influenced.
Where to begin? There were no ATVs out there. There's certainly no jet skis when we first started. So there's a lot of running up and down the beach, making announcements with the bullhorn. I used to blow a whistle a lot to get people's attention. And it's really funny. It's in Hawaii, guards rarely use a whistle anymore. A handful of towers have the PA system. But I think whistles are an awesome piece of equipment for getting people's attention and preventing trouble. Binoculars, whistle, pair of fins, rescue tube. They'd give us these little podunk lifeguard kits. They'd give us a blanket. They'd give us a big duffel bag to sort of schlep all our gear in. And windbreakers. I know for a while they gave us those cute little, remember the white tennis hats, sort of? Yeah, pre-baseball cap and the big straw sombreros. And yeah, it was, for me, I'd been a big fan of surfing ever since I was a kid. You'd pick up Surfer magazine every other month at the supermarket and read it cover to cover and read the captions. And, oh my God, that guy lives down the street. Or, oh wow, I saw him at the beach the other day. So you could sort of relate to, oh, this whole beach surfing thing is pretty cool. And so for me to move out to the North Shore, and then 3 doors down is Fred Van Dyke, and up at Rocky Point was Peter Cole, and there's Warren Harlow in his house right in front of Pipeline. These things that you read about and heard about. I was just like kind of living the dream. Mm-hmm. And I guess what a lot of, we, like you say, we get so much imagery and information, and so much of the North Shore is big, perfect surf. It's 10-foot Pipeline or 20-foot Waimea. Mm-hmm. There are plenty of days when it's not like that at all. Excuse me. Much smaller, calmer, fun. And then there's the whole summer season when it's flat as a lake.
And talk to me, sorry to interrupt real quick,
No.
but when it is smaller and fun and tourists are showing up to go swim, a lot of times they feel more comfortable to go in, correct? And how did that...
Right.
Did you have any situations like that where once it started getting a lot more popular, let's call it, with more visitation and that kind of stuff, on those in-between days when people don't see what it looks like, did that start becoming an issue for lifeguarding or for keeping the people safe because people were showing up here and not?
A big help was warning signs. We'd stick them in the beach with the orange, like traffic flags on top of them. Those were certainly helpful. And what was interesting is at Sandy Beach, we call it the broken neck, broken clavicle capital of Hawaii. Hard-breaking shore break right on the sand. And most accidents happened on the small days.
Yep.
Because the waves are smaller, they look less intimidating, it looks fun. The visitors see that. They don't realize that local kids have kind of been dodging or playing with it or getting used to it. They see little kids out there playing, and they go, well, if that kid can do it, I can certainly do it. And smaller waves are both breaking close to shore in shallower water. As waves get bigger, they're breaking further out, deeper water, but also looking bigger and scarier and more dangerous. So a lot more accidents are happening on the small days than the bigger days, which seems sort of counterintuitive, but
No, but that's good because most people don't realize that. I think that
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
From the-
No, I mean, people have been paralyzed and killed in
Talk
tiny
to
little
me.
shore break. It's not big. When obviously 10, 20-foot North Shore surf can kill you or drown you, but a little 1-foot wave in the shore break landing the wrong way could snap your neck and end your life in an instant.
Yeah. Talk to me about how you built your confidence and comfort in the water to body surfing these larger days on the North Shore, and with that risk of injury always ever present. Is there stuff that you...
Just experience, just like anything in life. It's practice, it's experience, it's, you get clocked a couple of times and you go, I don't want to do that again, or I don't want to put myself in that situation, or I don't want to be on that part of the reef sandbar, I don't want to be in waves that big. It just comes with experience.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
I got so lucky back in the day, a lifeguard on a, part-time, eventually it morphed into full-time salary, could afford a beachfront house with a couple of roommates, and hard to believe that nowadays. But so I was at the beach morning, noon, and night. We'd be in the water before work, we'd be in the water after work, and keeping an eye on it all day long and doing water patrols. So it came with a lot of practice and
time in the ocean. Right. How has your viewpoint of the ocean from, let's say, rookie lifeguard, first time, to
retired
nowadays,
lifeguard, rookie to retired, that happened fast.
But how has the way that you evaluate, or when you show up to the beach and look at the surf,
right?
How has your mindset changed towards what you're evaluating on the ocean, or on a rescue, or when you're going to go out and body surf?
There's a wonderful saying in the business, lifeguards for life. You're always on. I think anyone who's lifeguarded for any amount of time, whether it's a day off or he hasn't been in the tower for a long, anytime you go to a beach, the spidey senses are always sort of tingling for where's the hot spot, who's going to get in trouble, where's Waldo? It's like, who doesn't belong here? And that still sort of happens to me. I go to the beach, and more often than not, I'm always checking in with the lifeguard, saying, hi, how you doing? And to talk story for a while. And you're always watching, paying attention, and seeing what could happen, what might happen.
Yeah. So you still haven't found a way to turn that off?
No.
Okay.
No.
How important is...
What's hard for me to do is bite my tongue to the lifeguard in the tower, like, hey, what about that guy? Or, hey, do you see that person there? It's really hard for me to let them take over.
I totally understand. How important is the connection between body surfing and lifeguarding?
In Hawaii, it was very, very important. Every beach is different, of course. There are plenty of beaches where it's very calm and you don't have a shore break, you don't have waves. Ala Moana Beach Park, for instance, is right in the middle of urban Honolulu, a Long Beach Park. That's where we do our lifeguard training, our 1,000 try out the 400-yard rescue board, swim the 300-yard run, swim, run test. But the beaches that I worked, Ehukai Beach Park and Sandy Beach and Makapu, body surfing and surf swimming, knowing the currents is absolute essential skill. So I just felt so lucky that my love of body surfing worked hand in hand with surf life saving.
Mm-hmm. And speaking on the skill set, if you were going to see a new up and coming lifeguard that wanted to become a lifeguard, let's say they weren't yet,
right?
What would be something that you would clue into in them that you say, hey, we'll focus on this or do this, or these are some skills you would influence them to want to partake?
Well, there's so many skills. I mean, there's the medical first responder skills. There's the...
Maybe not skills, but more so qualities in the person, right? Qualities and
people,
the things that they...
You got to have people skills. A firm believer, sort of in the midst of my lifeguard career, this term preventative lifeguarding came about, and that was trying to prevent as many rescues or incidents from happening. So that means talking to people and warning them about what's going on, whether each individual beach has its hazards, whether it's waves on the rocks, a pounding shore break, a steep drop-off, stingrays, what have you. And so tell me the question again, Fresco.
The skills or traits for someone who wants to become a lifeguard, the qualities they need, or what you would tell them they should do in the ocean, what kind of activities.
What they should do in the ocean is just go in the ocean. Whether it's swimming with its mask and snorkel, a pair of fins, a surfboard, a kite foil, whatever, just water time. On a paddleboard, kayak, what have you. Just
anything.
Water time. Learn your beach, learn the conditions, walk the beach, swim the beach. And pay attention. Like I said, the medical skills are just as important as the rescue skills, if not more so. I think most lifeguards are doing more first aid and medical interventions than they are rescues. So, studying the medical books and first responder books might be more important than the water skills.
And talking
it takes a balance.
Yeah.
Every guard brings something different, whatever their strong suit is, but you try to improve on your whole game.
Absolutely. The term waterman
is oftentimes overused.
Thrown around, overused. So speaking about skills, in your eyes, what defines that? Is it a checkbox of I can hydrofoil, I can body surf, I'm a pro surfer, I'm a this, of skills in the ocean, or is it something more than that? And what is it, if you were to define it or explain it to someone the truest way possible, what is a waterman, or what should define a waterman as that term?
Yeah, that in legendary gets thrown around my name quite a bit, and I'm a little uncomfortable with it. It's all of the above, bits and pieces. They dubbed me a waterman, and I kind of shake my head. I know a lot of Hawaiian guys out on the west side, Makaha Beach, are true watermen. They're paddling canoes, they're fishing, they're riding longboards, they're riding alaya boards, they're body surfing, they're longboard surfing champions, and doing sailing canoes inter-island, very comfortable with jet skis, whether they're operating it or getting towed behind it. I'm kind of a one-trick pony. I love body surfing. I love to go snorkeling. I do a little board surfing. Paddleboard races when I was younger in Fitter. I haven't gone to a paddleboard race in a while, but I used to love that. And I lifeguarded, so I became some people call me a waterman.
So is it those skills, having as many skills as you want, or is it like a more spiritual connection to the ocean that you would say if you were going to stamp someone as a waterman in your eyes?
I don't know, Drasko. Yeah. Good question. I don't know if I have the answer.
But you say it's more than...
It's really interesting. There's this story, the Hokulea voyaging canoe, when they were first picking the crew for it back in the 70s, early 70s, before it took its maiden voyage from Hawaii to Tahiti, a traditional sailing canoe. They were trying to find the crew members for it, who were going to be the best guys for it. And a lot of big wave surfers kind of showed up for it, like, we're watermen, we can handle the big surf, and you think that's real good. And one of the founders of the Polynesian Voyaging Society said, I need open ocean sailors. I mean, there's the whole offshore fisherman, diver, waterman that a lot of lifeguard surfers don't even think about. Those guys are kind of the real watermen in my eyes. The guys that are in boats far, far offshore, making do. Your engine conks out. You better figure out how to fix it. It's like, that's nothing I could do. But anyway, this member of the Polynesian Voyaging Society, all these, big wave surfers who are nominated, he kind of dubbed them shallow watermen. And he goes, I need some open...
I like that.
Yeah, a friend of mine, I shared that with him, and he goes, yeah, well, I certainly have the shallow part down. So, I think open ocean sailors or divers or fishermen is part of the waterman equation, definitely. Mm-hmm. So much attention or spotlight is put on the surf and the surfers, but there's a whole big broad spectrum of people who are
Yeah,
watermen
I like that. And
women.
absolutely. And yeah, I feel like that just is cluing into just a deeper understanding that's well-rounded about anything that has to do with the ocean or water, right? At least in my rudimentary experience with that. But I like
Right.
I like that shallow waterman.
Yeah, I'm one.
Over the course of your career, how has lifeguarding influenced your life?
How has lifeguarding influenced my life? Lots of ways. It's like I say, that and body surfing just work so wonderfully hand in hand for me. It's the two kind of intertwined have provided lots of travel opportunities for me. I've done a couple of lifeguard when I was still in the department. Did a couple of lifeguard training sessions, introducing the jet ski to lifeguards in Hong Kong and Taiwan. And the founders, I feel very fortunate that I got to work alongside Terry Ehukai, Dennis Gouveia, Mel Poo, Brian Keolana, and those sort of first pioneers of taking the jet ski from a recreational motorcycle on the water thing to an incredible piece of life-saving equipment. And I feel very, and what's interesting is that that jet ski rescue craft kind of cut its teeth with professional surfing out at the North Shore. It was used for Hawaiian Water Patrol at the big wave surfing contest before we could convince the city council to provide the funding for the trailers and the staffing and the skis to make it a more essential part of surf lifesaving in Hawaii. And I digress. The question,
No, but that's a great point too. And let me expand on that for a second.
please.
How you saw the transition from before jet skis, or
Right.
if you're using it for rescue watercraft,
craft,
right?
yeah.
Rescue craft. If you're using it in a lifeguard capacity, when they showed up, and then
Right.
seeing the value, a big part of lifeguarding and the project and why I'm having conversations and all that, photos and all this stuff, is
Right.
explaining to people how something like that is valuable, which people might not understand. Why is a jet ski valuable to lifeguards?
Right.
So seeing that transition and now having to convince the city council to spend money on this.
Right.
Talk to me about that when it was new and it was fresh and jet skis showed up. You go, hey, we need one of these.
Yeah.
But they probably weren't open to it at the beginning, I would imagine.
Yeah.
But how did that process go?
Well, I remember we did a demonstration at Ehukai Beach Park where I lifeguarded 4 council members, and Brian Keolana and the guards from the west side came over, and there's a beautiful councilman, John DeSoto, Hawaiian waterman surfer himself, and a champion motocross rider who understood the benefits of engines. And but we did a demo. We put a lifeguard, a couple hundred yards offshore. We put 3 or 4 out there, and we said go. One lifeguard went out to the victim at the same time, fins and tube. We saw how long that took. Same time, another lifeguard went out on a rescue board. We saw how long that took. Then we pushed a jet ski off the beach and picked them up, shot them up the beach, and the board and swimmer were still swimming out to their guys, kind of thing. So that was kind of apparent. It was, a good chunk of money for back in the day, but it's just so apparent how efficient they are. And before that, the Aussies and Kiwis had the IRBs, inflatable rubber boats, and we had those for a little while. And it was just a very short term. Invariably, there's a lot of maintenance, flats, and you had to worry about, there were the prop guards, and there's a lot of maintenance, and they just weren't nearly as manageable in the surf. And of course, prior to that, there were the dory boats and the surf boats on the East Coast and up and down the coast here in parts also. Now they're used for mostly competitive racing as opposed to actual hands-on life-saving, but that is sort of part of the lifeguard chain. The wooden boats to the rubber boats to the jet skis, and who knows what's going to be next.
Absolutely. Well, I like that. Yeah, you had to physically bring them there, do a demonstration, and here, proof's in the pudding. This is what.
Yeah. Any time you can get the people that hold the purse strings to the beach. It
Yeah.
really opens their eyes when they're so used to sitting in their air-conditioned council chambers, but when you can get sand between their toes and they see the enormity of what guards have to cover, how much they're responsible for, the beach, the parking lot, everything offshore, they realize that more resources can always be used.
Absolutely, and it's a difficult thing to explain unless you're really
Yes,
there
yeah.
doing
Well,
it. You can't just.
hopefully what we're doing here, someone's going to listen and it's going to be helpful.
I hope so too.
That's the intent.
What do you think about Baywatch?
What do I think about Baywatch? I think Baywatch is awesome. Greg Bonin was a friend of mine. I knew a lot of people that worked on it back in the day. They did quite a few episodes. They did a Hawaii thing. And what's interesting is they are working on a new lifeguard show in Hawaii as we speak. High surf rescue, maybe. And a lot of former lifeguards are working on it behind the scenes. A lot of guards currently in the tower are working on it part-time in front of the camera and helping out with ocean safety. And I look forward to seeing that. I look forward to seeing it.
Yeah, I heard about that one too. Hopefully it's a more straightforward way of showing what it is that we do and getting some of that stuff out there. You were involved with junior guards for a bit, is that correct?
That's yeah, I was. I feel like that's the thing in my lifeguard career that I'm most proud of.
Cool.
Just under 20 years in the tower, mostly out at the North Shore. You talk about, going back Hawaiian beaches and stuff. Every now and then, they'd be shorthanded or there'd be an opportunity to go work in town, and I'd go to Waikiki, and I'd be on the edge of my seat. There are thousands of people in the water, jet-lagged, hungover from Mai Tais in Waikiki, high on Mai Tais in Waikiki, floating on inflatable ABC discount store air mattresses, and like, oh my God, the possibility for someone getting in trouble or slipping underwater was just enormous. People would always say, oh, Mark, North Shore Lifeguard, wow, that must be the heaviest thing in the world. I'd go into town and go, oh my God, this is the heaviest thing in the world, looking after all these people. And every beach, has its challenges. And so, every guard has something to be aware of or to be looking after. And are some beaches easier, harder than others? Maybe, but that's hard to define. And then one thing that we seldom talk about, Drasko, is so a lot of times I'll get asked, what is the craziest rescue you've ever done? Mm-hmm. What's the scariest thing? And I'm not keen to dwell on that. Mm-hmm. But what I like to do is bring awareness that one of the heaviest incidents I was ever responded to was a car accident on Kamehameha Highway behind the tower. And it was a sunny summer morning out at the North Shore, very quiet, back in the day. And you hear the screech of brakes and the crash of metal, and you go, oh God. You pick up the, back then, O2 kit and the first aid kit and rubber slippers and run across Cam Highway. And there was it was a fatality. But what people don't realize is that so many guards are responding to so many incidents in parking lots, whether it's a car accident, a domestic dispute, a fight, what have you. But we're first responders, where they're 9 out of 10 times before the cops, paramedics, or firefighters are there. So, one of my heaviest things was a car accident on Kamehameha Highway.
Yeah, absolutely. And what would you want to say? And you touched on some super good points that took the words right out of my mouth, that most people have no idea that we are the first responder there, right. Or as I like to say it, the zero responder, because we're there before the first one gets called because we're already preventing a lot of stuff.
Right.
But what would you say to someone in the council, or that's in charge of the budget, or that's in that realm that maybe doesn't see that stuff after doing a call like that or having a situation like that to? advocate for that?
What's interesting, when I first got in the city and county of Honolulu lifeguard department, we were part of Parks and Recreation department. And because most of our towers were at public beach parks, and so we'd get a little, if we were lucky, we'd get a closet space next with the janitor, shared with the janitor, the park keeper. And it was until many years later that we started getting a fleet of trucks and picking up larger storerooms or what have you. And then many years later, we became part of EMS, Emergency Medical Services, where the mayor and the council put us together with EMTs, the paramedics. And our level of sort of recognition and pay, and in the eyes of the community, we got, even better recognition and funding. And just recently, the department we got our own union too. Before, we were grouped together with a bunch of white-collar government workers. And, God bless the union, it's, paying my pension now. But this union wasn't quite specific to the duties and responsibilities that the lifeguards have. We are very lucky that we were acknowledged that we could get out of a full retirement benefit with 25 years of service as opposed to 30 due to the hazardous nature of lifeguarding. And now we've recently we're going to become our own department in Honolulu, much like the fire department is the police department. We're finally going to become our own lifeguard department, it looks like. And so it's nice to see that evolution. So more funding, more recognition. Like I say, Hawaiian lifeguards were an offshoot of the Beach Boys in Hawaii. So for us to do those steps from happy-go-lucky Beach Boys entertaining tourists to first responders that we hope the public looks at us the same way they look at police, fire, and ambulance, I think that's a nice evolution.
And that's a super important transition, and you're touching on a lot of subjects where, you can't really put it into its own box. It has to be its own thing, but to the untrained
it is very
eye,
unique. Yeah.
When someone shows up and just sees the lifeguards there, they just assume that we've got it all taken care of. But as you're expressing, we still, Hawaii or California or anywhere really, we're dealing with that same problem. How do we package this lifeguard thing up? Where does it fit within the government entity? Who gives them the funding? How do we express ourselves? And part of that is on us, but part of that is bringing that understanding to people. And look, just like you're alluding to, how long it took in a place like Hawaii, which is an international destination.
Very much so, yeah.
To even just advocate for the lifeguards.
Yeah. Hawaii is we put all our economic eggs in the visitor industry. And so we're inviting people from around the world to come to Hawaii and come to the beaches. And we want to take, if you're inviting guests to your home, you want to take care of them. And so as much funding, recognition, equipment that the guards can get, the better off. It's only recently, I think in the last year, that we're finally morphing over to a 10-hour day. I wish I was 20-something now, and I could become a lifeguard and work a 4-day work week and find a gig for the other 3 days a week. And the pay is increasing, the equipment, the recognition is getting better and better. So I'm very happy with the men and women that are in the tower now and where they're taking it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I had a previous podcast where we talked about data and coastal drowning prevention and stuff.
Right.
And one of the subjects that came up was people the tourism industry or visitation industry that's bringing all these people there. Do they have, if you're going to bring 1 million people to Hawaii, do you have a responsibility to provide, like you said, if I'm going to bring someone to my home, you want to take care of them.
Right.
So do these entities have a responsibility to give, let's say, a new rescue watercraft to the lifeguards or some kind of support if they're bringing in that burden as well?
You would think so. A lot of the visitor industry people, the hotels, you're saying, do the hotels pay for the lifeguards? The hotels pay an awful lot of tax money for their property and everything. So their reply to that is, we pay our taxes, so we do fund. We pay an awful lot of taxes, so we do fund. There's certain businesses that have been more helpful. The surf industry has been incredible. Quicksilver back in the day was incredibly generous to the lifeguard department. We feel so lucky that we had that relationship with Quicksilver and the lifeguards over the years. Other surfwear companies have been very helpful in regards to gear, supplies, occasionally springing for a jet ski or a new trailer and what have you. And that's always very helpful. There's the government, but then we also have a nonprofit Hawaiian Lifeguard Association that sort of oversees all the neighbor islands. We get together a couple times a year for meetings to compare what's happening in Kauai County, what's happening in Maui County, what's happening on Big Island County, city and county of Honolulu. We all get together and compare notes and, try to bring everyone up together.
Absolutely.
And that sort of, I want to mention USLA, United States Life Saving Association, that I would hope every guard would become aware of or become a member of. And it was founded here in California, I want to say by Bob Burnside, great lifeguard, great bodysurfer too. Bob Burnside in the 60s created the beginning of a national organization to bring all lifeguards together. So I hope all lifeguards will look into USLA and become a member.
Absolutely. Before I forget, I've only got a couple more questions that I've written down here, but one important thing as we were on the subject of explaining what lifeguards are doing and gaining recognition for the stuff, how important it is. I think a huge event that happened was the death of Ben Carlson making a rescue in the surf at Newport Beach, which started the Ben Carlson Foundation. He's doing a bunch of great stuff, obviously. What was your, when did you hear about that, and what are your thoughts on a line of duty death of a lifeguard?
Excuse me, but for the grace of God go I. Could have been me, could have been one of my coworkers who I lived and worked alongside with for many, many years. Maybe that it doesn't happen more often is a miracle. And I think that alludes to the health and fitness and awareness of most lifeguards out on the tower. We've had a couple of line of duty deaths back home over the years. And it's a tragedy. But what has been created in Ben's name, raising awareness and scholarships and foundations and what have you, is fantastic. And happy to play a small part in it.
Yeah, thank you. We talked about one of your kind of less ideal calls, negative stuff. I want to bring it back towards the positive. In your lifeguard career, is there a standout happy or positive or success, whatever title you want to put, but something that gives you a nice feeling that stands out as a memory during your lifeguard career that's happy or that's positive? It might not be a rescue, it could be a simple moment, but
where to begin, Drasco? It's just a whole lifetime of them. Every day was a gift. Every day was magical. Every day was wonderful. And that, I can still go down to the beach and lean against a tower and talk story with the men and women up there and feel semi-relevant and hop in for a swim. I just feel so blessed for that. I think I touched on it earlier. You have to be a people person, or we're helpers. Intuitively, that's the nature of lifeguards. You want to help people, and that's a good feeling. Like, I've been in parties or social situations where, oh, what do you do? And, oh, I was a lifeguard. And it's kind of like, oh, a lifeguard, and they roll the eyes. And I go, well, I help people and I save lives. What do you do? And they'll invariably get back to how much money they make or what they do. But it's our office is the best place in the world, right? I call the beach the greatest impact zone in the universe. It's where the earth, sea, and sky all come together. And there's all that energy. And that's why people go to the beach, live on the coastline, and go to the surf, because there's something magical, there's something energizing, there's something healthy about it all, spiritual about it all. The beach is sort of magical to me, and I still love it. And that I got to work there, 5 days a week, go to work in bathing suit and a t-shirt. That was pretty special. And then the friendships that I've made from on the beach. I got real lucky working out at the North Shore, sort of at the advent of professional surfing. And I've gotten to meet and become pals with some of the best surfers in the world and watch them up close, very up close, and these incredible athletes performing in wonderful, wonderful waves. And the cast of characters in lifeguarding and the surfing world has just been wonderful. And we just had an international body surfing contest at Point Panic last week, and it was the first sort of international one. There are body surfers from France who won both the men and women's division. Body surfers from Brazil, there's some from Morocco. Of course, there's a huge competitive Aussie contingent there. And it was just great. And I turned 69 next month, and I still get to go swimming and go to the beach and have a good time. And I feel.
When's your birthday?
August 21st.
Okay.
I'm a Leo.
Nice.
Does that mean anything to anyone? I don't know.
There's a story that you would bring a lot of the surfers from the North Shore and give them a pair of fins to go out
Right.
and body surf. Why?
Right. Just to experience the waves and the North Shore energy from a different perspective. They were always on top of their boards, floating and standing and dancing. And I think swimming in the ocean, body surfing, slows you down, humbles you a little bit. And I always joke that I like being in the ocean, surrounded by the ocean, embraced, hugged by the ocean, as opposed to sort of performing on top of it. And like I said, I love board surfing. I'm not very good at it, but I almost feel like swimming in body surfing is a bit more intimate, to me anyway.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And then let's bring it, as we're kind of wrapping up, now you're involved in some creative,
Yeah.
let's call it
Art
picking
is,
up trash from the...
art is in the eye of the beholder.
Absolutely. But talk to me about your...
Sure. I think the simplest way to describe it is found objects. And back in the day, lifeguarding, most lifeguards would have a mask and snorkel. In Hawaii, the water's warm and clean. You can hop in and be looking at the bottom most any beach you go to. And invariably, people were losing things. Surfers would be dropping watches. Back in the day, people used to carry cash around, and they'd wipe out, their Velcro pockets would blow open, and cash would fall out. And if you knew where to look, they were drifting to the certain trash holes, certain channels, certain sandbars
It's collected
where
in the
things
reef
collect.
and stuff,
Yeah. But anyway, so and you'd also look for jewelry. I'd also look for swim fins. Back in the day, Churchill fins weren't floating. I'd be finding swim fins and selling them back to the body surfers and the bodyboarders and body surfers for a little gas and lunch money. But I encourage every lifeguard to have a mask and snorkel in their kit to see what's happening underwater, not just on the surface. But found objects, once again, that love of surfing, surfboard fins. I find a lot of surfboard fins. It's crazy how many fins surfers lose. Tighten your screws, kids, often, regularly. And then I like to mount it on man-made lumber as opposed to driftwood. I like beached wood or wreckage that's been hammered and weathered by the elements, much as I have been. And just putting these things together, a lot of watches, a lot of sunglasses. It's amazing how much stuff we leave behind in the ocean. And most of it has a wonderful patina or growth on it. Mother Nature's starting to wear away at it or take over. And so these things I make, I think they kind of show that passage of time.
Yeah.
And all these things were shiny and new and in a surf shop or under fluorescent lights in a air-conditioned mall. And then they went into the ocean and the ocean did its number on it, and so I kind of bring it back to the surface.
Back to reality.
Found objects. Yeah.
Oh, I like that.
Well, it's given me a lot of joy the last 10 years.
When was the transition when you stopped selling the stuff back for lunch money and you started displaying it?
Oh, yeah.
What changed?
Well, mostly it's when I was in the tower, really. When I first 20 years out at the North Shore, for the most part. The last 10 years, I've worked out of our headquarters in Honolulu training department, and I felt very fortunate with that job. Like I say, founding the junior lifeguard program was one of the things I'm most proud of in my career. That's what we do in the summer. All of our guards would go through a 3 to 5 day research class, and we'd have to break that up during the course of the year. And the part of the job that I really enjoyed was going to schools, military bases, community groups, and doing ocean safety presentations. Ultimate ounce of prevention. I think every lifeguard department should have a prevention department where you teach the little kids learn how to swim, always have an adult present. We'd go into the high schools and we'd be telling kids, stay in school, stay off drugs. You need to have a high school diploma to become a guard. You can't have dirty pee. Got to stay off drugs. And then to the military personnel saying, utmost respect, you guys thank you for fighting and protecting our freedom, and you're trained to be killers, but the ocean is stronger than you, and just letting them know to respect the ocean and what you can expect on different beaches around the island. So, the last part of my career, as a training lieutenant, I got out of the office a bit, checking on junior guard programs, doing community groups and school presentations, and lifeguarding was very good to me.
And that is so valuable that most people don't realize, I think, that it is not just showing up to a shift, clocking in and clocking out. It becomes your life. It becomes this whole experience. Your connections, your friends.
Right.
You're giving back to the community. You're a member of the community. You're not just showing up, doing a report and leaving, right, in an office building or whatever,
right,
what have you. But the stereotype and the aesthetic portion of lifeguarding is difficult to understand. But yeah, once you get to a certain point, now you're giving back, that you're teaching kids through junior guards to have responsibility, to be good people, right? And that spreads itself in ways that we can't really measure or explain, I think.
It touches me. Young adults will come up to me and go, "You're my junior lifeguard instructor." I go, "Wow, what are you doing now?" And whatever it is. And I always remember parents at the end of the day or end of a week of a program going, "Thank you so much. My kid has found a direction. Maybe it wasn't so good in school, maybe wasn't a soccer guy or what have you, but he's running and swimming, comes home exhausted, eats and goes to sleep, and is chomping at the bit to get to the beach first thing in the morning." But the beach and the ocean lifestyle is a perfect fit for a lot of people, whereas working in an office or at a key, laptop may not be the ideal calling for them. So once again, I'm just filled with gratitude for how good the lifeguarding community has been to me, all the guys I got to work with. And excuse me, you mentioned community, and it was so important. I'd like people to realize that, out at the North Shore, we have the stereotype, it's just perfect surf, all the time. And it's not. It's just a small portion of the year, and only a handful of that small portion are the ways real good. But in the meanwhile, it's a community in a neighborhood out there, and people are working and going to school, and marriages, divorces, kids growing up, and what have you.
All the above.
It is a community. It's not a amusement park. It is a neighborhood. It is a community out there, and so much of Hawaii kind of gets marketed as
like
maybe a Disneyland for adult.
Yeah,
it's vacation land, but I'd like people to remember that it's a wonderful community, just like they are up and down the coast here in California, that it's just not an amusement park.
You're in someone else's neighborhood. You're in their home.
Someone's
have
backyard.
Some respect and tread lightly. And listen to the lifeguards.
Please, for your own safety.
As a closing, is there anything you'd like to say to up-and-coming lifeguards or people in general, tips for life, for lifeguarding, whatever it might be that you'd like to leave people who are listening?
Do what you love. It worked for me. I kind of knew I was, excuse me, signing up for a vow of poverty when I took the job on, but I knew it was a perfect fit. I saw how beautiful that North Shore community was. I saw the setting was just so rewarding to me, being on the coastline. The people that I got to work with, the people I got to meet over the years, and like I say, the pay has improved and the recognition has gotten better and better. But I stuck to my guns. I went to a very elite private school in Honolulu where you're supposed to maybe become a banker, lawyer, businessman, dentist, doctor, or president of the United States. And maybe it's just my nature. I kind of like to zig when most people are zagging. And so zigging into lifeguard felt really, really good to me in a way. And being a body surfer as opposed to a board surfer kind of was in a similar vein. And I stuck to my guns and it worked out. We're so lucky in Hawaii because the ocean and beach community is a year-round thing. 365 days a year we've got guards on the beach. And there's always something to do in the ocean. So lifeguards are always needed. And I hate the word lifestyle, but that's what it became. Mm-hmm. And I feel filled with gratitude for how good it's all been to me.
Well, Mark, thanks again for sharing that with us.
My pleasure, Drasko.
And coming all the way out.
I hope I shared something.
Absolutely.
Stoked. Thank you.
Cool.
Aloha.
Thank you.